ESPN says NCAA basketball coaches among 10 charged with fraud and corruption. So let's read this article. And if you're wondering what schools, it says in paragraph 2, it says Auburn, Oklahoma State, Arizona, and USC. So this article says federal prosecutors have announced charges of fraud and corruption in college basketball, including against 4 coaches. Auburn assistant Chuck Person, Oklahoma State assistant Lamont Evans, Arizona assistant Emmanuel Richardson, and USC assistant Tony Bland. So Auburn, Oklahoma State, Arizona, and USC all have assistants arrested for fraud and corruption. They were among 10 people charged in New York City federal court. Others included managers, financial advisors, and representatives of a major international sportswear company. The details will be discussed at a news conference on Tuesday afternoon. That's going to be today, I think at noon Eastern, about an hour and a half. In court papers, prosecutors said the FBI has since 2015 been investigating the criminal influence of money on charges. The FBI has since 2015 been investigating the criminal influence of money on charges and student athletes who participate, maybe on coaches and student athletes who participate in the intercollegiate basketball governed by the NCAA. They said the probe has revealed numerous instances of bribes and paid by athlete advisors, including financial advisors. Numerous instances of bribes paid by athlete advisors, including financial advisors and associate basketball coaches, to assistant and associate basketball coaches to exert influence over student athletes. So it looks like it's kind of confusingly written. Bribes paid by student advisors, including financial advisors and associate basketball coaches, to assistant and associate basketball coaches to exert influence over student athletes. It's a little confused. They're paying the bribes to assistant coaches? Is that what's happening? I'm confused. This article is a bit confusing, but the key details from this article are 10 people were charged in New York City federal court, and 4 of them include Auburn assistant Chuck Person, Oklahoma State assistant Lamont Evans, Arizona assistant Emmanuel Richardson, and USC assistant Tony Bland. So we have coaches from those 4 schools who are charged with crimes. Now, I have no idea, will the NCAA discipline these schools because the coaches have been charged with crimes? Remember, this is not the NCAA. A lot of times when you hear about like coaches being disciplined for misconduct, it's the NCAA doing the disciplining. It's not the FBI law enforcement. This is FBI law enforcement arresting 4 assistant coaches, and at least according to the NBC Nightly News, they said FBI arrests several assistant coaches. They said it was about sports apparel, but here this looks like, we can't tell. Maybe some charges are fraud and corruption of some sort. Some involve fraud and corruption involving sports apparel. Hard to say right now what's going on. Let's look at the Wall Street Journal article here. They say arrests expected in probe of alleged bribery, kickbacks at college basketball programs. Now they say arrests expected, but NBC said there already have been arrests, and ESPN said people have been charged. So I would think the arrests already happened. It says probe focuses on whether coaches were paid to pressure players to associate with outside entities. Whether coaches were paid to pressure players to associate with outside entities. So would that be like a sneaker company pays a coach to try to get the player to go with the sneaker company or something? Let's see what it says here. Federal law enforcement officials, according to the Wall Street Journal, are expected to arrest. Now, I believe some of them are arrested because ESPN says they've already been charged in federal court. I don't see how they could be charged in federal court without being arrested. Anyways, at least a half dozen people and unsealed charges Tuesday as part of a wide-ranging investigation into alleged bribery and kickback schemes at several of the country's top-tier college basketball programs, people familiar with the matter said. Investigators have been looking into whether coaches at these schools have been paid by outside entities, such as financial advisors, agents, and apparel companies in exchange for pressuring players to associate with those entities, people familiar with the investigation said. Executives at least one apparel company are expected to be among those arrested, a person familiar with the matter said. The investigation is being led by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office. Broadly, the investigation has shed light on the highly competitive recruiting pipeline that brings elite high school basketball players through Division I college programs and into the professional leagues, and the role played by assistant coaches in that process, the people said. Now, this article, let's look at this. It says, investigators have been looking at whether coaches at these schools have been paid by outside entities such as financial advisors, agents, and apparel companies in exchange for pressuring players to associate with those entities. So what it looks like, according to this Wall Street Journal article, is at least some of what's involved here is, say you have a financial advising firm. You bribe an assistant coach at blankety blank state. And then that assistant coach goes to the players at blankety blank state and says, hey, you know what? I know of this awesome financial advising company. You should check them out. Or like an agent pays an assistant coach at blankety blank state, and the assistant coach at blankety blank state says, oh, you know what? You really should get an agent. You know what? I'm going to tell you who I think the best agent is, and they give the name of the agent who paid them. Or an apparel company. So the coach might say, the apparel company could pay the assistant coach, and the assistant coach says, hey, you know what I heard? I know this dude at like Reebok or Nike or whatever the apparel company is. I don't know which company is going to be charged, but which company's representatives are going to be charged. But I know this company, I know this person at apparel company X, and they like can get you a sweet deal. So I don't, it's like, that seems to be, from the Wall Street Journal article, that seems to be what we're talking about. I don't know if the idea here is going to be that the assistant coaches don't reveal to the players that they're getting paid off, that they say, assistant coach might get paid by an apparel company and then say like, hey, you know what you should do, player? You should check out this company, but they don't ever tell the player that they were paid off by that company, and then that coach maybe gets additional money, a kickback, when the coach when the player signs with that company. Or I don't know, maybe the coach gets some money, or the coach could get some money, or I don't know, the company could get some money. It's, who knows what the exact flow of money is right now, but that seems to be, at least according to this Wall Street Journal article, what we're talking about. Let's go back to the ESPN article and tell you the 4 coaches the ESPN article mentions are Auburn basketball assistant Chuck Person. I believe these are all basketball assistants. Auburn assistant Chuck Person, Oklahoma State assistant Lamont Evans, Arizona assistant Emmanuel Richardson, and USC assistant Tony Bland. And as I said before, there's this really interesting question, which is, so let's say today they announce that these are the 4 coaches arrested. Does the NCAA do anything about it? Does the NCAA say, well, we're going to wait for the legal process to play out, which would, to me, would be reasonable to do, because, you don't want, look, it could turn out that they arrest these people and charge them, and then they're not, a jury says they're not guilty. But how does the NCAA respond to this is an interesting question. And again, as I point out, this is not the NCAA disciplining coaches, which happens more often. It's the FBI arresting coaches and charging them with crimes that they maybe could go to jail for. So, and other individuals, I don't know who these other individuals are. It doesn't say specifically, but it says among the 10 people charged included managers, financial advisors, and representatives of a major international sportswear company. So will that sportswear company, if these people are found guilty, will they be banned from sponsoring NCAA teams for a while, or NBA teams perhaps? I don't know, but you could have big ramifications here. But these are 4 very top schools: Auburn, Oklahoma State, Arizona, and USC. If it turns out that these 4 coaches are convicted of these bribery and fraud and corruption charges, What happens to those schools' programs? Anything? Are they disciplined? Do they vacate wins from previous years or titles or whatever? Do they get sanctioned for coming years? What happens here? If you're a recruit who just signed with Arizona, you're probably worried now because you're like, I don't want to play for a team that's not going to be able to play in the NCAA tournament, but you don't know that right now. So lots of questions here. Would love to get your feedback on this. If you have any comments on this, write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. I'm going to try to get you some more information shortly. Thanks, by the way, to the moderators. Ron Miller is there right now for moderating the chat room. And what else was I going to say? Thank you to the moderators for moderating the chat room. And also, be sure, we come on at all hours, morning, night, day, night, whenever, to cover breaking news stories. So subscribe to us on YouTube if you want to know when we're coming on the air, and click the notifications bell. That way you'll get a notification whenever we come on the air to cover breaking news. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Right Side Broadcasting. Feel free also to like this video on YouTube and share it on Facebook. We're a small company. We can't afford advertising. So when you like and share our video, that really helps get the word out about Right Side Broadcasting and tells people we're covering these events. And also, speaking of our lack of money, you do help us stay on the air because we're viewer supported. Your donations are what keeps us on the air. So if you like the broadcasts, please consider donating. You can donate by just going to the YouTube chat room and clicking on the $sign at the bottom of the chat room. There's a little $sign there. Or you can go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. So I want to take some of your comments, and I also want to get some more information about this. This story is breaking right now. Let's see. I just want to see if I'm caught up with your comments. If you have comments on this, write to me at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner. I'm going to see if I can get some more information about this story right now, because it's kind of just coming out. So let's see what I can find. I'm hearing Adidas mentioned. Adidas mentioned. I'm going to have to tweet this out. Oops. Hey. I guess I have to. I don't know how to. I'm using. Hold on a second, guys. I'm sorry. Give me 1 sec here, please. Okay, I think I got another story here. This is from Business Insider. Business Insider, they say a college basketball bribery scandal leads to arrests of 10 people, including an Adidas executive. I'm going to tweet that out right now because I think that's important news. Hold on a second. Let me tweet this out. So, Business Insider and Adidas, executive is among those who were arrested. That's important. So it says, the Business Insider says the FBA arrested 10 people in charges of fraud and corruption on college basketball on Tuesday. The Department of Justice announced that college basketball coaches at University of Arizona, Auburn, USC, and Oklahoma State had been arrested, as well as managers, financial advisors, and representatives of a major international sportswear company, which they're saying is Adidas. Jim Gatto, director of global sports marketing for basketball at Adidas, was also named as a defendant. Wow. He is the director of global sports marketing at Adidas. Director of Global Sports Marketing for Adidas. According to the complaint, Gatto allegedly conspired with coaches to pay high school athletes to play at universities sponsored by Adidas. referred to as Company One in the Cage. Okay, let's read this again. Gatto, allegedly this Adidas guy, conspired with college coaches to pay high school athletes to play at universities sponsored by Adidas. Wow. So the Adidas rep allegedly paid coaches to pay the athletes to come play at certain universities. So the Adidas representatives would pay the coaches to pay the athletes to play at the colleges where the coaches worked. Wow. How about that? How about that? Now, by the way, Joe Seals, our CEO, went to Auburn. He's very upset about this. He wanted to let you know that. And Joe just texted me. He says Adidas. It said Auburn is under Under Armour. Well, this doesn't. We don't know all of the people arrested, Joe. So, Joe, I'm sure they didn't arrest the Auburn person for no reason. So we got to hear what they say about this. But wow. So that's interesting. I'm just once again. This is from Business Insider. This Adidas Global Sports Marketing Director, that's a huge position. That's like an incredibly big position. Allegedly conspired with coaches to they set up this scheme where the coaches would pay high school athletes to go play at certain universities that wore Adidas apparel. Man. Wow. Interesting. I want to tweet that out too. Sorry, I like to send these tweets out to just update people who aren't watching, and also, during the broadcast. So, Business Insider, and to emphasize the important points. Business Insider, Adidas executive. What's his name? It says Jim Gatto arrested for conspiring with coaches to play at universities to pay players to play at colleges sponsored by Adidas. Wow. Now, some people might say, I'm sure people will say, hey, this stuff happens all the time. Well, I wouldn't doubt that this kind of thing happens a lot in college basketball and has gone on for years. However, something significant about this story is this is not the NCAA disciplining them. This is the FBI. People are arrested and could go to jail for this. All right, let's continue with this story here. The investigation, which has been in progress since 2015, has been led by the FBI and in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. 3 separate complaints have been filed. Gatto and 4 other defendants, so 5 people have been charged with making and concealing bribe payments to high school student athletes and or families. Wow. 5 people charged with making bribe payments to high school, college basketball players or their families. That's according to Business Insider. Wow. So this is really I'll say this. This, I think, look, corruption has gone on in college sports for years and decades and whatever. But this, I think, is going to be especially, juicy, publicized, worrying, because you have here people charged literally with paying the kids. Look, making and concealing bribe payments to high school student athletes or their families. So we have people, adults, paying the kids in high school to go to certain colleges, paying high school kids. And so, not to say that this thing didn't happen before, but this is FBI charges about this. So I will say this: if it turns out that like assistant coaches at these colleges, Arizona, USC, Auburn, Oklahoma State, were literally paying the high school kids. I would be shocked if there weren't super strong sanctions by the NCAA. Now, maybe there won't be. I don't know. But, I mean, does it get much worse than if the FBI convicts assistant coaches of paying high school kids? And once I think a lot of Americans will be really upset about the idea of college basketball corruption reaching its way to high schools. Not to say it hasn't been happening, but to me, it makes it a little more icky when you have it reaching into the high schools. Because then you'll get people worried about, like, wait, what if my son or daughter is in high school and, like, somebody's offering them bribes and stuff like that? So, wow. Okay, let's keep going with this article. In one instance, Gatto and the other defendants reportedly funneled $100,000 to the family of a high school basketball player to convince the player to sign with a public research university in Kentucky. The complaint didn't name the university. Based on details provided, it is likely Louisville. Oh my gosh. I have to tweet this out too. What? Man. Adidas, so the idea is Adidas rep helped funneled $100,000 to a high school basketball player to convince player to sign with Louisville University. I'm gonna write that. Let me get this straight. So, Business Insider. Adidas rep helped conspire to funnel $100,000 to a high school player. Does it say and his family? Let's get the details right. High school player's family to get a player to play at Louisville University. Oops. Wow. So we helped conspire to funnel $100,000 high school players family to get player to play at Louisville. So Louisville is a new school mentioned here. Louisville. Hadn't heard that one before. So Louisville is a fifth school, reportedly. So we have, who are the schools involved so far we know about, according to these reports? We have Oklahoma State, Auburn, Arizona, USC, and Louisville. Those are 5 top programs. Now let's say this. We can't tell here if anybody at Louisville is accused of doing anything wrong, because it could have been the case that they were bribing this player to go to Louisville, but Louisville didn't know about it. But we don't know that yet. So I haven't said that anybody from Louisville was arrested or anything, but it does bring Louisville into this, where I hadn't heard them named before. In another case, wow, let's keep going here. In another case, Gatto and other defendants allegedly agreed to make payments of up to $150,000 from Adidas to convince the player to join another team sponsored by the apparel company. $150,000. University is not named, but based on information, it's likely it's the University of Miami. Oh my gosh, we have another one. I gotta tweet this out too. Sorry, I'll be fast. Business Insider. Adidas rep conspired to offer. What is the exact detail? This actually helps me nail down. It says up to $150,000 to convince player to go to play for Miami. to play for Miami. So Miami is now perhaps involved in this. Business Insider coming through with the inside details. Way to go, Business Insider. Nice job. And note that it says here in Business Insider, Louisville signed sponsorship, a $160 million sponsorship deal with Adidas in August. Miami entered into a 12-year partnership with Adidas in 2015. So it seems to be beyond question that these schools did have deals with Adidas. Man, this is juicy and nutty. Other defendants include, Jonathan Brad Augustine, president of the nonprofit The League Initiative, Merle Code, the head of Nike's Elite Youth Basketball League as of 2013. Does Merle Code still work for Nike? Let's look this up. Hold on. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if Merle Code still works for Nike, so you can't tell if Nike's really involved. And Christian Dawkins, a former sports agent who was reportedly fired in May for charging $42,000 in Uber rides on an NBA player's credit card. Wow. And by the way, folks, I know we have a black screen going on at the moment, so I'm just going to let you know, if you're watching this live and you see a black screen, I'm going to say this is YouTube's fault, guys, not us. So we've been having this issue with YouTube where we go to a black screen, and it's kind of crazy. I'm just texting my boss now. So just so you know, guys, we've been having this issue with YouTube where a black screen comes up during our broadcasts. It's not our fault. If that happens again, just know we're not off the air. It's a YouTube malfunction. It'll be up there for a few seconds and we'll be back on the air. So if you're watching live and you see a black screen, just know that it's not our fault and it's YouTube's fault, and we'll come back on the air. Also, if you watch the event on the replay on YouTube, the black screen won't be there. If you're watching on Facebook, the black screen's not there. We're working on fixing it with them. We don't know why it's happening, but we're working on it. So let's see here. The rest of the details from this article. In the 2016 NCAA men's basketball tournament, Nike was a clear leader, providing uniforms for 41 entrants. The Baltimore Sun reported. Under Armour outfitted 10 teams. Adidas provided outfits for 14 teams. Under Armour outfitted 10 teams, and Russell Athletic outfitted 3. I'm just texting our boss real quick about that black screen. And then let's see. So some of the details here again. What do we know so far about this story? Let's take stock. We have the FBI arresting 10 people for corruption and fraud. Those people, included among those 10 people, are assistant coaches at USC, Auburn, Arizona, and Oklahoma State. Those assistant coaches, according to ESPN, are Chuck Person at Auburn, Lamont Evans at Oklahoma State, Arizona's Emmanuel Richardson, and USC assistant Tony Bland. So those are 4 coaches who are reportedly arrested for this and were charged. Then we also have an arrest of Jim Gatto, the director of global sports marketing for basketball at Adidas, who was also named as a defendant. So director of global sports marketing for Adidas, that is a huge position. Jim Gatto was arrested. And we have charges that Adidas and others conspired with coaches to pay high school athletes and their families to get the athletes to play at schools where Adidas was the sponsor, which I believe means Adidas is the one whose gear they wore. Like they wore Adidas sneakers and Adidas, jerseys and Adidas warm-ups. So the idea here is that Adidas would be helping to arrange payments to high school players to get them to go to schools which wore Adidas stuff, which would help Adidas. Now, I don't know if that's all of the charges. Maybe there are some other charges we're not hearing about here. But you can see here we have, in one instance, Gatto, according to Business Insider, in one instance, Gatto and the other defendants reportedly funneled $100,000 to the family of a high school basketball player before they've ever played a game in college, to sign with a university. And this says the university was Louisville. We don't know if there's any wrongdoing at Louisville here, but Louisville does have a deal with Adidas. And in another case, they agreed to, Gatto and other defendants allegedly agreed to make payments of up to $150,000 from Adidas to convince the player from Adidas, from $150,000 from Adidas to convince the player to join another team sponsored by Adidas. And they're saying this was University of Miami. So we have a number of schools mentioned here. This, by the way, this could be like devastating for Adidas. If it's proven that Adidas was paying high school athletes 6 figures to bribe them to go to schools that wore Adidas, not only, I mean, just think of just the PR stain on Adidas. Also, I'm guessing if that's proven, NCAA will ban Adidas from sponsoring athletes. And I bet, I don't know, but I bet if it's proven in court, or Adidas admits, this Adidas guy admits that Adidas bribed high school athletes to go to certain schools that wore Adidas, you will have the NCAA banning Adidas in all sports. I bet that'll happen. And I bet I bet the NBA might ban Adidas. Well, I don't know if they can do that. They probably can't because it might violate like if Adidas signs a contract with athlete X, I think if the NBA tried to ban Adidas, then the athlete could probably sue the NBA. But I wouldn't be surprised if the NCAA is allowed to ban Adidas. I'm sure that's the case, actually. There have to be provisions that the NCAA can ban a company if they're bribing students. But I'm also thinking that maybe now NBA players won't want to sign with Adidas. New players won't want to sign with Adidas. Would an existing NBA player who's already signed with Adidas, would they try to get out of their deal because they're like, I don't want to be associated with this company who bribes high school players? So this could be really devastating for Adidas. Wow. So anyways, let's try to get some more information about this. I am Steve Lookner. We are covering the story live here at Right Side Broadcasting. And would like to get your comments. If you have comments, write to me at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner. Let me know what you think about all of this. And also, thanks to the moderators for moderating the chat room today, in the chat rooms. Very much appreciated. I see Real Frank is in there now, in addition to Ron Miller. And be sure to know when we're coming on the air with these breaking news videos. Subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell when you do. That way you'll get notified. Except today, some people weren't notified. I'm sorry about that. But you should get notified about when we're coming on the air with a live video. So subscribe to us on YouTube, click the notifications bell. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Right Side Broadcasting. And feel free to share this video on Facebook and like it on YouTube. That really helps us out when you do that. And it tells other people about the video, and it tells YouTube and Facebook to show more people the video. And also, if you'd like to donate, we are viewer supported. Your donations keep us on the air. So if we are viewer supported, so if you'd like to donate and help keep us on the air, so we can cover stories like this, you can go to the YouTube chat right next to the broadcast. There's a little $sign at the bottom. You can click on the $sign. Even small donations really help us out. Also, you can go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. And you can follow us on Twitter at RSB Network. But let me know what you think about all this. I'm at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner. I want to see if any of you guys have comments about this. Mary Stewart says UL Louisville did this while on probation. Now again, Mary, we don't have any information from articles I've seen that Louisville was necessarily involved. All the Business Insider story said is that Adidas and other people funneled money to a high school basketball player to get them to play at Louisville, but we don't know if anybody from Louisville was involved at this point. So I don't know. Let's see. Matt Eichinger says, would this explain why Kevon Looney, Kyle Anderson, Jordan Adams, Tayshaun Taylor, Kelly Oubre, and Ben McLemore have had Adidas deals? I can't speak to particular players, but if these players, so I guess according to Matt Eichinger, these players have Adidas deals. If they do, are any of them involved? By the way, interesting question. So would this explain it? I don't know. Perhaps it'll explain why some athletes have Adidas deals. I don't know. I will say this. The students who were bribed, if it turns, let's say there's some star at a college basketball program right now, and it turns out that they were paid $100,000 to go to that program. Won't that student athlete be disciplined by the NCAA? So doesn't the NCAA have rules against taking money to go to a college and play? Like if I go to school X and I'm a sophomore and I'm playing basketball and the NCAA finds out I took $100,000 as a bribe to go to that school, isn't the NCAA going to discipline me? Isn't the NCAA going to say like you can't play for a year or something like that? I don't know, but I have to think the NCAA has like corruption. Sorry, I want to get that headline up there. I have to think that the NCAA has rules that say you can't get paid to come to our universities and play basketball or play other sports. So look, is it possible that you might see some NCAA basketball stars disciplined because of this by the NCAA? Don't know. By the way, I hope ESPN is covering this live. I turned it on this morning. ESPN wasn't even covering it live. No, ESPN has they're covering the NFL and the national anthem, and they have a little breaking news crawl at the bottom. Why wouldn't NCAA just be covering this fully live? This is kind of confusing. Well, we're here covering it live at Right Side Broadcasting. It's a pretty big story, and it could get much bigger. Let me get to some more of your comments here. Remembering says, can they now look at other sports for owner and coach corruption? If no respect for flag, no respect for anything, even the law. Now, remembering, I don't believe that not kneeling for the national anthem it violates any kind of federal law. It's protected by free speech, so there wouldn't be any law breaking going on there. Okay, let's just see if there are any more comments here. If you have comments on this, write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Thank you. Greg Jackson wrote about the black screen that periodically happens. Oh, there we go. It happened again. Another black screen. So just so you know, just so you know, we've been having these issues with the black screen on YouTube that comes up for a few seconds. If a black screen comes up during the live broadcast, just know it's not our fault. We'll be back soon. So just stay with it if the black YouTube logo comes up. We're working with YouTube on fixing this. We can't figure out why it's happening. Thank you, Lars, for the donation. Lars Anderson made a donation. Your donations keep us on the air. If you want to donate, go to the YouTube chat and click the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or go to rsbn.tv/donate. But if the black screen comes up, it'll be there for a few seconds. Stick with it. And also, once the video processes after we're over, it takes a few minutes to process. But once it processes, then the black screen is gone on YouTube in the reruns. So you can go when you go watch it again, and you can always watch it on Facebook where there's no black screen as well ever. Mike McAllister says, certainly doesn't hurt Syracuse's chances for Jalen Carey. So I'm a little confused. I'm not like totally up to date on, certainly not up to date on college basketball. So I don't know who Jalen Carey is, and Mike McAllister very well might be right, but let me just check. It says, is he like a high school player, Jalen Carey? First of all, let me leave this up there. Now I'm interested. I'm guessing he might be a high school player. Oops, that's not what I want to do. I want to do this. He's being recruited, it looks like, Jalen Carey. He's high school. So you're saying, so Mike McAllister, I guess, is saying, well, since Syracuse wasn't involved in this, maybe it helps the schools that weren't involved with this try to recruit players, like Jalen Carey. Daniel writes in, is Adidas at fault or is Miami? So to clarify, no word yet that in the story that Business Insider said Adidas conspired to offer bribes to students to go to both Miami and Louisville, and Adidas conspired with others. But I've heard no report yet that anybody working for Louisville or Miami is accused of wrongdoing. I don't know, though. I don't know. It could come out that somebody at Adidas or Louisville was involved. So we don't know yet. I should tweet that out. To clarify, I'm going to say, while high school players allegedly offered bribes to play at Louisville and Miami, no reports yet that Louisville, Miami employees involved. Now that could change, but I just want to clarify that. But we do have reports that 4 coaches were arrested from University of Arizona, Auburn, USC, and Oklahoma State. So we do have reports that 4 coaches were arrested from those schools. And let me know if you have any thoughts on this. Write to me at @Lookner. Write to me at @Lookner and let me know. Now let me see. I want to see if I can find you some more information on this that's coming out about it. Because this story is kind of breaking right now. $12? I see a report that says 12. I think that's wrong. 12 coaches. I haven't seen that yet. I see 4 coaches among 10 defendants. Yeah, so like CBS News says 4 Division I NCAA basketball coaches among 10 charged with corruption. This has nothing new. It's the same coaches. Lamont Evans, Oklahoma State. Chuck Person, Auburn. Emmanuel Richardson, University of Arizona. Tony Bland, Southern California. Jim Gatto, head of sports marketing, Adidas, also charged. We saw all that before. I'm trying to get you some new information on this. We need new information. It's the best information I'm finding is from these articles here. So let me do another check here and see what I can find for you. You're watching Right Side Broadcasting. We are covering this breaking news that the FBI has arrested at least 4 college basketball coaches and a number of other people for fraud and corruption involving paying high school players and their families to go to colleges. Certain colleges, and we have reports that Adidas helped pay players to go to colleges that wore Adidas gear. Okay, let's see if I can get you any more stories about this with details. Ooh, we have the names of the 6 others named. USA Today says, this is USA Today, and they say, the 6 others named on court documents included James Gatto, director of global sports marketing at Adidas. Merle Code recently left Nike for Adidas. That's interesting. So that person's at Adidas now. They were at Nike. Christian Dawkins, NBA agent who was reportedly fired for ASM Sports for charging approximately $42,000 in Uber charges on a player's credit card. Jonathan Brad Augustine, president of the League Initiative and program director for the Adidas-sponsored One Family AAU program. Munish Sood, a financial advisor, and Rashawn Michelle, a former NBA official who founded Thompson Bespoke Clothing Line. So those are reportedly the other 6 people arrested. Ooh, we have an Adidas statement released. Let's see it. Adidas says they were unaware of their global head of sports marketing, Jim Gatto, allegedly arranging to pay high school players. Today, we became aware that federal investigators arrested an Adidas employee. We are learning more about the situation. We are unaware of any misconduct and will fully cooperate with authorities to understand more. Do you believe that Adidas didn't know? Don't know. They said they didn't know. Do you believe that no one else at Adidas knew about this? Was it just one guy? Don't know. Okay, let's get back to that story at USA Today. Names of specific schools were not involved, only being referred to as University 3 and University 6. One of the schools was in Kentucky. One of the schools was in Florida. We heard Business Insider is suspecting that 3 and 6 were Louisville and Miami. University 1 was identified as Auburn. FBI alleges in one complaint unsealed Tuesday that Auburn coach Person abused his coaching position at Auburn to solicit or obtain bribe payments from a financial advisor for professional athletes. That financial advisor, who was not named in the indictment, was working with law enforcement as part of the investigation unbeknownst to Person and the other defendants. Wow, so we're hearing that a financial advisor, it sounds like, was working with the feds. Maybe they were wearing a wire, and that this financial advisor was offering to bribe coaches, but was telling the FBI about it. That's what it sounds like is going on here. Wow, that's kind of juicy. This is a very juicy story. Over a 10-month period, the financial advisor allegedly paid about $91,500 in bribes to Person in exchange for Person agreeing to direct certain basketball players to retain the services of the financial advisor when those student athletes entered the NBA. So the idea is that this financial advisor, who was working with the feds on this probe, was paying Chuck Person $91,500, and in exchange, Person would agree to direct certain Auburn basketball players to hire this financial advisor once they were in the NBA. Now, this is interesting here because it seems to show this is like a wide-ranging probe, because some of this, we have one person arrested for taking bribes from a financial advisor to steer players to a financial advisor once they were in the NBA. We have other people arrested for bribing high school players to go to certain schools where those schools wore Adidas clothing. So those are two, I mean, they're both corruption, but they're kind of different. So perhaps this was like a very large corruption investigation. Will there be more arrests possibly? Do we know if they're all done, or will there be more? We don't know. There's supposed to be a press conference in about 45 minutes on this. We'll see if we can carry that for you. I'm asking my boss if we have access to that press conference. If we can show it, we will. If not, we won't. Let's see here. Okay, so that was a helpful article from USA Today. You're watching Right Side Broadcasting's live coverage of this breaking news that the FBI has arrested 10 people, including 4 assistant coaches, college basketball coaches. They are coaches from USC, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and Auburn. And all these arrests are on corruption charges. The corruption involves things like Adidas arranging to bribe high school players to go to colleges that wore Adidas. Also, an Auburn basketball coach being paid by a financial advisor to steer players to hire that advisor once they entered the NBA. There very, very well may be other schemes going on here. Also, we heard that from Business Insider that Adidas was bribing high school players to go to the schools Louisville and Miami, although no word yet that anyone who worked for those 2 schools is involved here. We just don't know at this point. So we're trying to get you the latest information. You can, I'd like to hear what you think about this. So if you have any comments on this, write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Let me know what you think, or if you hear any updates about this story. And you can follow me on Twitter too if you like breaking news. I cover a lot of breaking news stuff. Also, subscribe to Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube and click the notifications bell so you get notified whenever we come on the air with these breaking news videos. And you can follow us at Right Side Broadcasting on Facebook. And please, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook and you like this video, like it on YouTube and share it on Facebook, because we don't have any money to advertise, so that really helps spread the word about the videos when you like them and share them. And if you'd like to help us stay on the air, we're a viewer-supported network. Your donations keep us on the air, so you can donate by going to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or you can just go to the YouTube chat room next to the broadcast and click on the $ at the bottom of the broadcast. Sorry, at the bottom of the YouTube chat. At the YouTube chat, on the bottom, there's a little $. You can click there and make a donation. Thanks so much to the moderators for moderating the chat today. Or the chats. And we're going to try to get you that press conference about this, that the federal authorities, I believe they're the ones giving it. Maybe federal authorities would be giving it at around noontime today. We're going to try to get that on the air. If we can, we will. Eli on the move says Miami should sue. You're saying Miami should sue because they don't necessarily have employees involved? Well, if they don't have employees involved, they can't. The only reason they could sue is if somebody, if a news organization said they had employees involved and they didn't, they could sue the news organization. But I haven't heard anybody report that they have employees involved yet. Let's see. I'm looking for more comments here. Alex Fleischer says, "Remember when Miami was going to be really good at basketball? I remember." Now, no word that Miami employees were involved yet. Tone Vanderwoodson writes in about Adidas offering these bribes just when they were able to surpass MJ. Rampage Kane writes, "We back," in reference to the bribery, to the bribes offered to students, or at least one student, to go to Miami. El Presador's Army writes, "Is it possible that Adidas themselves can be shut down totally? Seems pretty serious." Well, just so you know, there's a little black screen for a few seconds. We'll be right back. If you see a black screen, just know it's not our fault. It's YouTube's fault. So you can just stay tuned when you see a black screen. It'll be on the air for a few seconds. We're back. That one was short. So we're sorry. We're working on YouTube with fixing that. So can Adidas themselves be shut down? Well, look, if it turns out Adidas claims, they released a statement and they said they were unaware. Adidas said they were unaware that their head of sports marketing, Jim Gatto, arranged to pay high school players. So if it turns out that Adidas, no one in Adidas knew anything, and this guy was like a lone actor, I mean, who's going to could they be shut down? I mean, who does the shutting down? I mean, I don't know, like, to shut down a corporation, you'd have to show, I would think, that there was like some sort of threat of future grave violations, that they were going to harm people in the future or something. So, I'm not aware of the law here, but my thought is that for law enforcement to shut down a corporate entity, you would have to show that there's some risk of grave harm that's going to happen if they're allowed to stay in business. And now, if it's shown that like the entire board at Adidas knew about this, what I could see more likely happening is, say, the stockholders, the shareholders saying, you guys all got to quit. Something like that could happen. But in terms of shutting down, remember the NCAA, it's not like the NCAA. The NCAA can shut down a college basketball program, but it's not like, there are laws governing whether, what law enforcement can do. And I believe shutting down a corporate entity is probably something that's extremely unlikely, unless you can show that like there's some grave risk to the public from them being allowed to continue operating. But I'm not familiar totally with the laws about that. But you could have Adidas, who knows, maybe other people will be arrested there. Maybe people will have to resign. Certainly, I would think the NCAA, as I said before, could prevent Adidas from sponsoring college athletics. Might the NBA take action like say, hey, Adidas, you can no longer sign new deals with our players for a certain number of years? Maybe they could. I don't know. Legally, I would think the NBA could do that if they thought that it would damage their reputation or something. I don't know how it works with the NCAA restricting corporate activities, but I would think NBA is allowed to do that kind of thing. I don't know for sure. Don't hold me to it. Certainly, I would think there's going to be a lot of negative publicity for Adidas. Maybe worldwide, college athletics will take action against Adidas. So a lot bad could happen to the Adidas brand because of this. Poo Poo says, in response to the news about UMiami, and I think the news about UMiami and Louisville, about Adidas offering players to play at those two schools, Poo Poo says, that's it, that's 2 5-stars. I can't tell if he means 5-star players or 5-star schools. HB Ken says, coming out of high school, I'm taking that cash. If you're offered, HB Ken is referring to Adidas rep and others offering up to $150,000 to a high school player to play for University of Miami. SBG says, you gotta at least make a Final Four if you're dropping $150,000 bags for basketball. Sad, not a good investment. He's talking about the UMiami story, but remember, we haven't heard that UMiami was offering the money. We were hearing that Adidas was involved in offering the money to students to go play for UMiami in Louisville, where they wore Adidas. Now, Hank Hill is saying he heard a report that a Nike official was involved. I heard an official was involved who used to work for Nike. I've heard nothing besides that. So I'm not going to report that a Nike official was involved, because all I've heard is that somebody who used to work for Nike in 2013 and now works for Adidas was involved. So unless I hear something more about this that's more confirming in my mind, I'm not going to report that a Nike official was involved. Q's Nation Sports writes, yikes, not good. Okay, let's try to get you some more information on this. So to summarize what we know so far, the FBI has arrested 10 people for corruption involving college basketball. They include 4 coaches, assistant coaches that we know about. Those 4 coaches are Auburn assistant Chuck Person, Oklahoma State assistant Lamont Evans, Arizona assistant Emmanuel Richardson, and USC assistant Tony Bland. In addition, arrested for this was the head of global sports marketing at Adidas, James Gatto. And the charges include James Gatto from Adidas, conspiring to offer $100,000 to a high school student to go play at Louisville, where they wear Adidas, and to offering $150,000 to the player and or family of a high school student to go play at Miami, where they wear Adidas. And we have a charge that Auburn coach Person took almost $100,000 from a financial advisor to get players at Auburn to use that financial advisor once they got in the NBA. Don't know about other charges yet, so we'll have to. We also know a sports agent was arrested, an NBA agent was arrested. Somebody involved with the an AAU program was arrested. A financial advisor was arrested, and a former NBA official who founded a clothing line was arrested. So we're going to hopefully hear more about this. It's supposed to be a press conference in like a half hour. If we can bring that to you, we will. But we're also taking your comments. So if you have a comment on this, write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. We apologize for the periodic few seconds of the black YouTube logo that comes up. It's a YouTube issue. We're working with YouTube on solving it. If you see a black YouTube logo come up on your screen, just know it'll go away after a few seconds. We're still here, so just stick around if you see that logo up there, and it'll go away and the broadcast will continue. If you like our broadcasts and you want to see more of them, we're viewer supported. We can only stay on the air with your support. So you can donate if you want to support our network by going to the YouTube chat room and clicking on the $ at the bottom of the chat, or going to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. I want to try to get you some more information about this. But I think some people might have written in, so let me just see here. Matthew Powell says, "Oh my Lord, this is going to be really bad." Kane Finn says, "I really don't care about a school paying a player." Now, we don't know that any schools paid players yet. Pete from Florida says, "If the market says the player is worth $150,000, then he should be paid $150,000. Brandon Carvalho says, "This is going to be crazy." Looking here. Rosier Hive says, "Gotta pay to play with the big dogs." Eric Marrero says, "This is bad." And again, a couple people are writing that Nike may be involved. I have not heard any credible reports that Nike are involved. All I've heard is that one of the people arrested used to work for Nike, but now works for Adidas. So if I hear that a more credible report that Nike is involved, I'll let you know, but I have not heard such a report yet. But again, if you have comments, write to me at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner. Let me know. Let me see if I can get some more information about this. This information is like trickling out, and I'd like to get more of it. Okay, ESPN's article's a little longer now. Does it have anything really new? ESPN says this. Wait, now I'm seeing University 7. Who's University 7? I've only heard of 6 universities. Court documents state that Gatto, Code, Dawkins, Augustine, and Sood were making and concealing bribe payments to high school student athletes and or their families in exchange for, among other things, the student athletes' commitment to play basketball for University 6 and University 7, thereby causing the universities to provide athletic scholarships to student athletes who, in truth and fact, were ineligible to compete as a result of the bribe payments. So this raises that point I talked about before, whereas if there are star basketball players now playing college basketball who did accept bribes, won't it be revealed in this court proceeding, and won't the NCAA suspend or just prevent and say, or just say, hey, these students can't play in the NCAA anymore because they've taken money. Could happen. So, all right, I want to find, also remember, Adidas said, supposedly, they were unaware of their global head of sports marketing, says Adidas, arranging to play high school players. They say, we became aware today of this. We're unaware of any misconduct and will fully cooperate with authorities to understand more. Okay, let's see if I can find other stuff about this. Now, the ESPN story said University 7. So I've only heard about 6 universities involved. So see, it says University 7. I've only heard about 6 universities involved. I've heard that coaches at 4 universities were arrested: Auburn, Oklahoma State, USC, and Arizona. I've also heard that Adidas offered the Adidas representative offered bribes to students to play at Louisville and Miami. What is the 7th university? I haven't heard yet. Does this say here? No. So what is the 7th university? I'd love to find out. I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to keep looking here and try to get you an update on this, because I want to know. Give me 1 second. Let me check some different sources here. I'm checking to see if we have any updates about this. Let's see. Let's see here. Maybe the Washington Post has some new news about this. Nope, the same 4 schools, Adidas representative, mentions the other players, mentioned those 2 things. Involved the 2 bribes offered to play at Louisville and Miami. Well, it doesn't specifically mention Miami and Louisville, but we heard that in another article. Ooh, here's something about Kentucky. Let's see this. This is from Louisville. All right. The charging documents also, this is from the Washington Post. The charging documents also allege that the defendants and an unnamed assistant coach from the Kentucky school, it sounds like Louisville, devised a plan to pay another recruit, this one from the high school class of 2019, at a meeting in a Las Vegas hotel room that was surreptitiously videotaped by the FBI. Oh my gosh. The assistant coach from the Kentucky school was recorded as saying the scheme would have to be low-key because the program was already on NCAA probation. The coach was also recorded giving the AAU official an envelope containing $12,700 in cash. Oh my gosh, well that's new. Does this say Louisville? Okay. All right, I have to tweet this out. I want to get this detail straight. I'm going to tweet it out. So I'm going to say, let's see here, that Washington Post says assistant coach from a Kentucky school. Other sources suggest it's Louisville. Was taped by FBI, handing over a bribe for a player, for a high school player. Did I get that? Did I get those details right? So this says, Washington Post says, the FBI is supposed, according to the charges, videotaped a coach at this Kentucky school, which another source says is Louisville, handing over a bribe. So I'm going to tweet that out now. So the way I tweeted it out is, assistant coach from a Kentucky school, other source suggests it's Louisville, was taped by FBI handing over a $12K bribe for a high school player. So Louisville very well might be involved here. Louisville might be involved here. The employee might be involved here, because this school from Kentucky, Business Insider says, is Louisville. And the charge says they have on tape, the FBI, the assistant coach from the school, believed to be Louisville, handing over $12,700 in cash to give to the player. To give to a high school player. Man. On tape. It's on tape, supposedly. What else do they say in this article? Jeez. This is interesting. So we talked about how supposedly Louisville, supposedly Adidas helped bribe a player to go to Louisville, and it says here, in June, after the alleged bribery scheme kicked in, the player announced his intention to attend the school in Kentucky, supposedly Louisville, a decision that was regarded as a surprise. So people thought it was surprising when this high school player signed with Louisville, but it turns out that they might have taken a bribe. Oh, the payments were made at the request of at least one coach on the school staff. So this says that coaches at Louisville were involved. So this is new. We hadn't heard this before, that supposedly an assistant coach from our different sources, we're piecing together a Kentucky school, which supposedly is Louisville, was involved in bribing a player to go to that school. Man. What other details can we find here? So now to me, we're hearing assistant coaches from 5 schools were involved. I don't know if they arrested anybody from Louisville. I haven't heard this yet. But we have a report that in addition to the 4 coaches arrested from Auburn, USC, Oklahoma State, and Arizona, a coach from Louisville was taped by the FBI handing over a bribe intended for a player, a high school player. See what other details I can find here. Now, this talks about the Louisville player in the CBS article, about the player who went to Louisville. It says there's this player that got approximately $100,000. They ended up signing at Louisville. And the court documents say this player received a bribe to go there. And then Louisville coach Rick Pitino was asked about Bowen's commitment in June, and he said, "We got lucky on this one." He says, "We spent $0 recruiting a high school 5-star athlete who I loved when I saw him play. In my 40 years of coaching, this is the luckiest I've been." Hey, let me know what you think about this. Write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. I'd be interested in hearing what you think about all this. So, wow. See what else I can find out. And there's supposed to be a press conference on this in about 20 minutes. If we can bring it to you, we will. I'm not sure we can, but we will if we can. You are watching Right Side Broadcasting's live coverage of this breaking news that the FBI has arrested numerous coaches and others for corruption schemes involving college basketball. What are the five? There's 7 colleges. There's at least 7 colleges mentioned in the charges complaint. But do they have the complaint there? Well, here's the complaint. We got the complaint. Oh, look, guys. This is the actual complaint. Let's see what it's long. I'm not going to read all 29 pages word for word, but let's see what we can find here. Okay, we're looking over this. Oh, they're not going to say what the universities are. It's like University 7, University 6, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, this doesn't mention the particular schools. We're hearing like the different sources, like the Washington Post and Business Insider. They identify who these schools are, like company, and it says company 1, which I guess is Adidas, and school 1 and university 2. So we're not going to get those details from this document, apparently. If you're interested in reading the complaint, you can find it here in the CBS Sports story they have about this. They have a link to the complaint in there, the official complaint. Just doing a search here, try to find some new information. So Michael Eves says this. This is interesting. He says, based on text I've received, this FBI investigation into college basketball corruption could be huge, much bigger than assistants implicated. That's what he says. So what could he mean by that? What could he mean by much bigger than assistants implicated? So, I mean, does he mean that perhaps head coaches knew? Could head coaches have known? First of all, I want to retweet this. Could head coaches have known? Could the head coaches have known? Could there have been more schools involved? Perhaps more schools? You know, we've already heard about 4 assistant coaches from 4 different schools and a report that assistant coach at Louisville is involved. You know, right there, that's 5 big basketball schools. Louisville, is Miami that big? Well, Louisville, Oklahoma State, Arizona, and Auburn. So just right there, imagine just if those schools are, suspended for several years from playing college basketball. What happens if this goes further? What happens if you have a lot more big college basketball schools who are like suspended from playing in college basketball? So this is going to be even a much bigger story. It's pretty big right now, to be honest, I think. Orlando Alzugare says, "Morning, Steve. My name is Orlando Alzugare here from WQAM here in Miami. Hope you're well. I was hoping to try to get you on today to talk about the Canes Adidas story. I'm on till 2 p.m. Do you have any time?" Well, it's nice. I'm going to text you. I'm on the air right now, but Orlando, I'll say, if I'm off the air before then, sure. What's the best place to reach you? Sorry, I'm just messaging them back. Let's see. Becky Whitmer sent me an article on Louisville. Said they were already in trouble for players being serviced by hookers. This will help finish them off. And Louisville does. I'm sorry here. Let's see. I'm trying to find the past charges about Louisville. Thanks for that article. I know Louisville. Are they on probation now, or they were on probation? Let me look this up. Get the details correct. Yeah. So on in June, NBA suspended Louisville basketball coach Rick Pitino for 5 conference games, and they put the program on 4 years probation. Louisville, that is. And that was a scandal involving somebody, basketball operations director at Louisville, hiring an escort to strip and have sex with Louisville recruits and players. So they're already on probation, Louisville. And now we have a report that the FBI has on camera, has on secret videotape, one of their coaches handing over a bribe, which is intended for a player to make that player go to Louisville. Just looking over some comments here. Elena TTD writes in, gotta really bribe people to play for Miami these days. Catherine Ryan, I had tweeted out this story about Adidas rep and others conspiring to offer $150,000 to a high school player to play for Miami. Catherine Ryan writes, I'll give you 3 guesses: Lonnie Walker, Johnny Walker, or Larry Walker. Now, I don't... somebody else mentioned Lonnie Walker. Does Lonnie Walker play for Miami now? He signed, I guess, with Miami. Let's see. He's a 5-star University of Miami guard. So now I have no evidence here that Lonnie Walker is involved with this at all. To be clear, I've heard nothing. I've heard no names of any specific players involved. So I'm just telling you what people are writing to me. Joe Kane writes in, and that player ended up taking the $150,000 from Kentucky. So no, now I don't know. I haven't heard any. I have heard nothing in these charges yet, and in the reports I'm hearing that the FBI is saying the players took the money. I'm just hearing the FBI charged people with offering the money, but maybe the FBI, that is part of what they know. I haven't read through their whole 29-page complaint yet, so I don't know. Real home recording says about the players being offered all this money to play for these schools, high school players. Real home recording says, so what? Seriously, it sounds like you're jealous, Steve. When did I say that I was jealous of these people? I'm just reporting the news. Jay Wilson says, $150,000, that's Frank Kaminsky money. David Alexander says, I'm going to be sick. Zeke Innocent says, a high school player, LMAOO. Matt Smith says, makes sense why Miami started landing 5 stars right after switching to Adidas. Hank Hill, Mel Code is not the current head of Nike's. Mel Code, I heard, was the head of Nike's Elite Youth Basketball League in 2013. I have not heard. That's what that Business Insider article said. It did not say that he was the current head of the Nike Elite Youth Basketball League. He used to work for Nike, but not. I have not heard that that guy arrested, Mel Code, currently works for Nike. I've heard he used to work for Nike and now works for Adidas. Okay, let's try to find some more information about this. All this information, we keep finding out new stuff about this as we go along. So, you're watching Right Side Broadcasting's continuing coverage of the arrests, the college basketball arrests. 4 assistant coaches arrested for corruption. Auburn, Oklahoma State, Arizona, and USC. Also, we have in the FBI complaint, the federal complaint, it says that a federal coach is on tape. We have reports that the FBI, between the complaint and the reports we're hearing, we have reports that the FBI has on tape a Louisville coach, assistant coach, handing over a bribe which was intended for a student to get the student to go to Louisville. So we have that report too. We also have a report that Adidas was helping to offer bribes to a student, at least one student, to go to University of Miami. No word yet whether any Miami University officials were involved. And we also have this text from Michael Eve that says he thinks the basketball investigation could be even bigger. He is a sports journalist and current ESPN Sports Center anchor. And he says this could be bigger than the assistants implicated. Does he mean head coaches? I don't know. So we're just covering this. And by the way, let me say, if you're watching on YouTube and you see a black YouTube logo come up, it's not our fault. It'll be there for a few seconds. It's a problem we're having with YouTube. We're working on fixing it with YouTube. But just know we're not going away. So if you see the black YouTube logo come up, just wait a second. We'll be back on the air. Thanks to the moderators for moderating the chat rooms today. Also, if you want to know when we're coming on the air with these breaking news videos, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell. We're Right Side Broadcasting. And you can follow us on Facebook at Right Side Broadcasting, and on Twitter we're at RSB Network. And also, we're viewer supported, so if you like our broadcast, feel free to consider donating. We'd really appreciate it. Even small donations help us out because your donations are what allow us to be on the air and cover stories like this. You can go to donate, you can go to the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or you can go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. And also, if you have any comments on this story or you hear any news updates, give me a shout on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. So I want to see if we have any more updates here. So give me a second and do some checking. We keep hearing these every time I check, I seem to find new details coming out about this. Let's see. And I know there's supposed to be a press conference soon. I'm just texting my boss here. What else can I find? I'm going to check some other sources here. Nothing new there. Nothing new in that one. Oh, Oklahoma State University, one of their assistant coaches was arrested. They released a statement according to ESPN. Their statement says, "We were surprised to learn this morning." Oops. Hey, why did that happen? Here we go. "We were surprised to learn this morning of potential actions against one of our assistant basketball coaches by federal officials," read a statement from Oklahoma State. "We are reviewing and investigating the allegations. We are cooperating fully with officials. Let it be clear that we take very seriously the high standards of conduct expected in our athletic department. We will not tolerate any deviation from those standards." So I do have, ESPN seems to say that the indictment says one of the players' families was indeed paid. So it's not just that all bribes were offered, it's that bribes were paid to players and or their high school players and or their families. Oh, this is interesting. I talked about the indictment, and it says the indictment also says that prior to paying player 10's family, let's see. The defendants first needed to generate a sham purchase order and invoice, ostensibly to justify using Company 1 funds, since they could not lawfully pay the family of player 10 directly and risk that prohibited payments be revealed. So it looks like, I believe this is one of the Adidas involved payments, or the payments involving the representative from Adidas. And it looks like what happened here is that that there was like a fake purchase order made so that it would look like Adidas was paying somebody for some goods, but this was actually the bribe money. Oh, so much stuff going on with this. But that makes it, that kind of stuff where you're generating sham purchase orders, then you get to the thing where like I would think that makes the charges worse, because you're not just bribing somebody, you're also taking, it's like, isn't there, I would think there are some criminal charges against conspiring to defraud the authorities. So it's one thing for me to bribe somebody, it's another thing for me to like create fake purchase orders so that the authorities can't find out I'm bribing someone. I'm not sure. I'm guessing there might be additional laws against that kind of thing. Maybe that's fraud. So if that is the case, well, I'm missing, it probably would be tax fraud or something at least. But if that's the case, you might see like more charges coming out of these kind of things. If you have fake purchase orders being made and that kind of stuff. Also, if that kind of stuff, if a fake purchase order is being made for Adidas if Adidas is purchasing stuff and it's a fake purchase order, wouldn't they be defrauding the IRS and defrauding their shareholders? So who knows? Okay. If you have thoughts on this, write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. A couple comments. B. Louise Barron says, bruh, just pay the players. L. Fuse says, Miami has been corrupted. Reese McCaig says, this wouldn't need to happen if the NCAA paid their players. Michelle Lynn Harrison says, not at all surprised. Orlando Poor says, Suntan U does it again. Aaron Almaroth says, good, get these kids paid by somebody. Justice is greater than laws, always and forever. Greg says, why didn't Lonnie Walker go to Nova, we asked. Hope this isn't about him. Let's see here. What else do we got? 10K Mecha Cortez says, nah, they need to mind their business and let them kids get paid. So I think she's saying that that the NCAA, that the law enforcement should mind their business and the kids should get paid who play basketball in college. Max says, FBI sat on them for years. Woo, baby. So we did hear that this investigation has been going on for since 2015. It looks like some sort of sting operation. There were secret videotapes made. We heard of at least one secret videotape made. Miss Stanley says, I don't see the issue. The players should get paid in the first place. Kane says, show me proof, not garbage ass sources. Michael Sweeney says, wow, imagine a talented individual taking money in exchange for playing sports in front of a paying audience. I'm going to get that headline up there. Okay, let me try to get you more information on this. Give me 1 sec, guys. Okay, let me try to get some more information here about this story. It keeps coming out. Oh, I guess, let's see. Hold on a second. I'm going to try to show you this the stream of the press conference. Hang on 1 sec, guys. We are live with it on another YouTube of our YouTube broadcast, but let me get it up here for you. Give me 1 sec. I think I can do this. Hang on 1 sec, folks. Let's see here. Okay. I think I'm going to be able to show you this press conference. Okay, it's when the press conference starts, I should be able to bring it to you. Okay, we have our eye. I have my eye on the press conference. We will show you the press conference when it starts. That should work fine. Cool. So I'll keep my eye on the press conference, and until the press conference starts, I will give you more updates about this college basketball situation. And I'll show you right now. Here's the shot of it. So there is the shot of the press conference, and we will have that for you. Ooh, there's 2 logos there. I'll get rid of that later, don't worry. But we're keeping an eye on it. We'll let you know about that when it's on the air. So much going on with this story. Hang on, can I do this? Let me. I want to actually get a shot of that press conference up here while I'm talking. So, let's see. Bear with me, folks. Okay, good. I am just setting this up so I can show you the press conference when it happens, which will start very shortly. All right, that's good to go. Oop, I think it's about to start. Hold on. There we go. There we go. So that is going to be the press conference there, and we will show that to you when it starts. And that's so that is, I guess, it's a poster that's going to be shown at the press conference here that the federal authorities are about to give on these college basketball arrests. So this is the press conference is about to start. Hang on one sec, folks. We've been on for a while, so I just gotta show you. I gotta pour myself some more water here. Here we go. So these are, again, what you're looking at now is there is a federal federal authorities are giving a press conference. It's supposed to start momentarily about these arrests. The college basketball coach and other people arrested for college basketball corruption. It's about to start momentarily. You're looking at a couple of boards that have been set up that I assume are going to be talked about during the press conference. We're going to have that press conference for you live here at Right Side Broadcasting. Just a little heads up too. I think it's about to start, I think. Hang on a second. Now there's no audio yet, so I know you're not hearing anything, but no audio yet. So we will wait. Hopefully we have audio when it happens. There we go. We have audio. So we are waiting on this to start. Looks like it's going to start very soon.
Hey guys with the wire, did you guys fix the thing with the mics? If not, you can put them here. Okay.
So we're waiting for this to start. Hang on a sec, guys. So I'll get the audio back on as soon as the press conference starts. But you can hear me now. I didn't want to have to talk over the crowd there. So we are waiting this. It's the Department of Justice. This is at the Department of Justice. They are about to give a press conference on these college basketball arrests. We have heard 4 coaches arrested, assistant coaches from Auburn, from Oklahoma State, from Arizona, and from Auburn, Oklahoma State, Arizona, and USC. We've also heard reports that a Louisville coach was captured on tape by the FBI paying a bribe that was intended for a player. We've heard reports that Adidas helped arrange for bribes for high school players to give to the high school players and or their families to get the players to attend U Miami and U Louisville. And we've also heard reports that maybe this scandal goes even farther. We don't know. The director of global basketball marketing for Adidas was one of those people arrested. That's a pretty big deal. And the reports we heard said that the bribes paid for the students to go to, and their families to go to Miami and Louisville were in the order of $100,000 and $150,000. We're not talking about small money here. We also heard a report that the Auburn coach accepted close to $100,000 from a financial advisor to encourage his players and to get his players to sign with that financial advisor once they made the NBA. And give me one sec here. Okay, so we're waiting for this press conference to start. This is the press conference that the federal authorities are supposed to start any time now, talking about these arrests here and the arrests related to college basketball corruption. And maybe we'll get some more details, but maybe we won't. You know, the specific names of the schools, like the schools we've heard, like Miami and Louisville and the company Adidas, I don't believe those are specifically identified in the federal complaint. Different news organizations like the Washington Post and Business Insider have either figured that out or found that out. But if that's the case, we might not hear more specifics of like new schools in this press conference, because it sounds like they're not the ones giving out the specifics so much as we have like different sources talking about the specifics. But I don't know about this. And they do have names on those. So they have specifics about like people arrested. They're going to name them, but I don't know if they're going to name like the different schools involved, because in the federal complaint, you have the schools identified as like University 6, University 7, that kind of thing, and I don't know if they're going to name all of the schools in this press conference. But as soon as it starts, we will play you the audio and have it on for you. In the meantime, I'm going to try to get some more information for you about what's going on with this. Let's see if I can find anything new. Just looking at some different sources here. Dan Wetzel from Yahoo Sports just tweeted out, "We'll update as the day goes on, but college basketball is under fire." And you have to wonder, are there other schools involved who haven't been, where coaches haven't been charged yet, but they might get charged? Does this affect other schools or other sneaker companies or other officials? We don't know right now. Is this going to go bigger? An ESPN SportsCenter anchor earlier today tweeted out he had been getting texts suggesting this scandal might be bigger. We just don't know yet at this point. Okay, let's see what else I can find here while we await this press conference from the federal authorities about these arrests. We're going to bring that to you live here. And sorry, I'm just checking around for different details. You know, a lot of the details we found out today about this came from just constantly checking different sources and seeing when they're updated and that kind of thing. So I'm just checking a lot of different things and seeing what we can find. So to reiterate a couple of the things.
I want to welcome in our college basketball analyst, Jay.
I didn't want to do that. A couple of the things that the federal complaint talked about. It said that this one of the people arrested was James Gatto, who's the director of global sports marketing. Oh, I think this is about to start. Let's see.
Everybody while we're here.
Oh, I thought it was about to start. It's not starting yet. Okay. We'll let you know. So we have assistant coaches arrested from 4 schools: USC, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and USC. Also, we have in the federal complaint the charge that the global sports marketing director of Adidas helped arrange bribes of $100,000 and $150,000 to high school players and their families for those players to attend U Miami and U Louisville. Now, those identities of those schools are from other sources, but the claim is that they were bribing players to go to schools where those schools had Adidas deals and they wore Adidas gear. Okay, this is about to start. Let's go to it.
Good afternoon. My name is June Kim. I'm the acting United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Today, we announce charges of fraud and corruption in the world of college basketball. The picture painted by the charges brought today is not a pretty one. Coaches at some of the nation's top programs soliciting and accepting cash bribes. Managers and financial advisors circling blue-chip prospects like coyotes, and employees of one of the world's largest sportswear companies secretly funneling cash to the families of high school recruits. In all, we have charged 10 people in 3 separate complaints. 4 college basketball coaches, 3 people associated with professional managers and advisors, and 3 with ties to the major sportswear company, including its global marketing director for basketball. These men allegedly participated in two different but related schemes. In the first, college coaches took cash bribes from managers and advisors in exchange for directing players and their families to those bribers. In the second scheme, managers, advisors, and those affiliated with the sportswear company worked together to funnel money to families of some of the country's top high school recruits, upwards of $100,000, for the players' commitment to play for the schools sponsored by that company. Let me start with some details about the first scheme. We have charged 4 college basketball coaches: Chuck Person, Lamont Evans, Emmanuel Richardson, and Anthony Bland. They are all associate or assistant coaches at major Division I schools with top-tier basketball programs. They have all been in and around the game of basketball for a long time, and one, Chuck Person, played and coached in the NBA. All of them had the trust of the young players they coached and recruited. Young men who looked up to them and believed that the coaches had their best interest at heart. Chuck Person, in describing his influence over one of his players, put it this way, quote, "He listens to one person. That is me." Chuck Person also explained that his players trusted and looked up to him because, as he reminded them, he had coached Kobe Bryant and had worked for Phil Jackson. But as alleged, these coaches abused that trust placed in them by the players and their families, and they violated the duties that they owed to their schools. In exchange for bribes ranging from $13,000 to almost $100,000 each, these coaches allegedly pushed particular managers and advisors on the players and their families. And certain of the coaches arranged for separate payments to be made to the families as well. Anthony Bland described what he could do for the managers and advisors this way, quote, "I can definitely mold the players and put them in the lap of you guys. The professionals whose lap the corrupt coaches put their players in were the defendants: Christian Dawkins, Munish Sood, and Rashawn Michelle. Dawkins was an athlete recruiter for a sports agency who was trying to start his own sports management business. Sood was an investment advisor, and Michelle owned a company that sold suits and other high-end clothing to professional athletes. For these men, bribing coaches was a business investment. They knew that the corrupt coaches, in return for bribes, would pressure the players to use their services. And they also knew that if and when those young players turned pro, that would mean big bucks for them in professional fees and profits. As Dawkins put it during a meeting that was recorded by law enforcement, quote, "If we take care of everybody, we control everything, you can make millions off of one kid." While pushing these professionals, the bribe coaches showed little regard for the players' well-being. They ignored red flags, seeing only the green of the cash bribes flowing their way. For example, in steering players to a financial advisor, who it turned out was actually cooperating with the government, most of the coaches never asked the advisor a single question about his qualifications, his track record in handling players' money, or really anything else about his business. A simple Google search by the coaches of the advisor's name would have revealed that the SEC had brought securities fraud charges against him just last year, including for misusing his professional athlete clients' money. Similarly, with Christian Dawkins, none of the coaches warned the players or their families that Dawkins had lost his job at a sports management company after an NBA Players Association investigation revealed that he had misused his client's credit card to pay tens of thousands in unauthorized purchases. But it wasn't just that the bribe-taking coaches ignored red flags and didn't seem to care about the qualifications of the advisors. As alleged, the coaches affirmatively lied to the players and their families. In talking to the families, they built up these professionals, some of whom they barely knew, with bald-faced lies. Chuck Person claimed that one of them was his own personal advisor and a financial advisor to Hall of Fame basketball player Charles Barkley. Well, that wasn't true. That advisor, the same one who was cooperating with the government, had never even met Charles Barkley and had never handled Chuck Person's money other than paying him cash bribes. Chuck Person also assured a player's mother that he himself had not received a penny for promoting that advisor to her. That was a lie, too. That conversation took place 5 days after Person had taken an envelope filled with $15,000 in cash from that very advisor during a secret meeting in a Manhattan hotel room. By allegedly accepting bribes in this way, these four coaches not only breached their obligations to their schools, violated NCAA rules, and betrayed the trust of their players, they also committed serious federal crimes, as did the managers and advisors who paid them. The second scheme, although slightly different, came from the same playbook of fraud and corruption. In this scheme, Dawkins and Sood again worked with three people with ties to a major global sportswear company to send bribe money to the families of some of the country's top high school recruits. The three men are James Gatto, the global marketing director for basketball at the sportswear company, Merle Code, a business affiliate of the same sportswear company, and Jonathan Brad Augustine, the program director for an amateur basketball team sponsored by that company. The complaint alleges that these defendants conspired to secretly funnel six-figure payments to the families of three high school players. In exchange, the players would agree to commit to playing basketball at two colleges that were sponsored by that company and eventually retain the advisory services of Dawkins and Sood and to being sponsored by that sportswear company. Recognizing the illicit nature of these payments, Gatto and Code allegedly took steps to hide them. Instead of paying the families directly, they made the payments through Dawkins' company and Augustine's amateur basketball team. They also conspired to disguise the payments in the company's books by using fake invoices and false entries. As Merle Code put it in another recorded call, quote, "It's on the books, but it's not on the books for what it's actually for," close quote. As alleged, the charged defendants claim that the payments to the players and their families were made in coordination with the coaches at the two colleges sponsored by that company. Now, if you read the detailed allegations in the three complaints, totaling over 100 pages, you will find yourselves in the dark underbelly of college basketball. We were able to get into that world through a cooperating witness and 2 undercover agents posing as corrupt advisors and financial backers. And we obtained numerous court-authorized wiretaps and made hundreds of consensual recordings. Through these recordings, we were able to hear, in the defendant's own words, their audacious, allegedly criminal schemes. And I'm going to quote a couple of them. As Dawkins put it in one recording, quote, "If you're going to fund those kind of guys," referring to the coaches at the most elite programs, Dawkins said, quote, "I mean, we'd be running college basketball," close quote. In another recorded conversation with the FBI undercover, Dawkins explained that what they were doing, funneling money to players' families, could, quote, "not be completely accounted for on paper because some of it is, whatever you want to call it, illegal," close quote. He was right. That is what we call it, illegal. So let me walk you through some of these visuals that you have here. These 2 charts or diagrams show the 2 different schemes in the picture format. So this one shows the coaches. This is the alleged coaches bribery scheme. These are the managers and advisors who paid the bribes to these coaches, who in turn pressured players to go to use these managers once they turn pro. Some of the college coaches alleged to have funneled some of the bribes to the players and their families. This depicts the alleged sportswear company fraud scheme that has the company affiliates and the managers and advisors paying cash to families, players and their families, some of them directed, according to them, by the coaches. And in exchange, the players and families would commit to Division I schools. They would file false certifications about their amateur status and receive athletic scholarships in return. And these were schools that were sponsored by that company. This investigation has required the dedication, hard work, and skill of many, many people, and I want to recognize some of them. First, I want to thank our great partners at the FBI, represented here today by Assistant Director in Charge Bill Sweeney, Special Agent in Charge Mike McGarity, and Assistant Special Agent in Charge George Trezani. We thank them and the many terrific agents in the New York field office who worked tirelessly on this investigation. We also thank the agents around the country who helped execute the arrests last night and this morning. We do so many of our most important groundbreaking cases with the FBI, and this is certainly one of them. Second, I want to thank the career prosecutors and investigators in our office who have worked relentlessly and masterfully on this case. They are Assistant United States Attorneys Robert Boone, Ted Descant, Noah Solowychik, and Alini Floater, as well as Tatiana Martins and Russell Capone, the Chief and Deputy Chief of our Public Corruption Unit. And I also want to recognize the criminal investigators in our office, and in particular Laval Jackson for all of his work. For the defendants charged today, the madness of college basketball went well beyond the big dance in March. Month after month, the defendants exploited the hoop dreams of student athletes around the country, allegedly treating them as little more than opportunities to enrich themselves through bribery and fraud schemes. Fraud, abuse, and corruption of the type alleged in the charges brought today contaminates all that is good and pure around it, and it has no place in college sports. The defendants' alleged conduct not only sullied the spirit of amateur athletics, but it showed contempt for the thousands of players and coaches who follow the rules and play the game the right way. And as many of them hit the hardwood floors later this week for college basketball's first official day of practice, we hope that these charges and arrests will help keep the sport that they love clean and honest. Thank you. I'd like to bring to the podium now Bill Sweeney, Assistant Director in Charge of the FBI New York Field Office.
Thank you, Jared, and thanks to your team who's on my right, and thanks to Mike and George for your leadership in the investigation to all the agents, the forensic accountants, and the countless agents around the country who helped us execute the arrest this morning. Those charged today include athletics industry consultants, a financial advisor, an executive of major international athletics apparel company, and several coaches from both public and private universities, as well as high school level AAU. Coaches have a significant influence over their players, and with that influence comes a responsibility to guide these young athletes in the right direction. As alleged, however, the coaches charged today cast aside that responsibility, choosing instead to use their influence to benefit themselves without regard to the players' own genuine interests. All of those charged today contributed to a pay-to-play culture that has no business in college basketball. Today's arrest should serve as a warning to others choosing to conduct business this way in the world of college athletics. We have your playbook. Our investigation is ongoing, and we are conducting additional interviews as I speak. We have a lot more work to do, and I encourage those who wish to proactively provide information to contact us through our tip line at 212-384-2135. Thank you.
I'll take some questions. So you have two questions. One is how pervasive do I think it is, and who's the victim. On the pervasiveness, I'm not going to comment beyond what we've charged, but there's a lot there, as you can see. It's 100-plus pages of allegations. 10 people have been arrested, 4 coaches at major top-tier basketball programs. So that's a significant number of people and conduct that affects a number of important programs. So, the investigation, as Bill said, is ongoing. This is, it's now overt, obviously. It was covert until today, and we will continue to be investigating. So we'll see how pervasive it is. On the question of who's the victim, it's clear that in this scheme, for example, there are false statements being made to the colleges saying, and those were generated by the professional managers, people working at the sports apparel company, saying, we're going to give you money, you should commit to this school, and yet they make false certifications to the school saying that they are amateur athletes and have not been paid. So the schools are, in a way, the victim. The schools are also a victim where they have hired college coaches who are taking bribes, cash bribes from managers and advisors to direct players who are entrusted in their care to certain professional advisors. The schools are also, a number of them are public schools, and they are all schools that receive money, federal funded money. And so to the extent the bribery laws prohibit, the federal laws prohibit those who work for public institutions or institutions that receive public money from taking bribes. And I think all of us, the public, anyone who plays in the game, are victims of that type of conduct.
I'm wondering what kind of cooperation you have with the NCAA talking to them and what kind of discussions you're going to have when it comes to your office.
The investigation was covert until this morning, so we have reached out to the NCAA, and we will be working and talking to them. Until today, I don't believe they were aware of this investigation.
You established a special phone number in this case. What's your message to people that are in the programs that are referenced in your charging documents today? What's your message to people maybe in other programs about what you want to have them talk forward about and your message to them to be cooperative as well?
Yeah, the message to them, along the lines of what Bill Sweeney said, is if you were someone who engaged in this type of conduct, or you are aware of others who have engaged in this type of conduct, call us. Call the FBI hotline number that's on our press release or our office, and tell us about it. If you're someone who yourself engaged in some of this conduct, I'd also encourage you to call us, because I think it's better for you to call us than us to be calling you when we're ready to charge you.
June, not too long ago when your predecessor was, was up there talking about the Albany on trial, the Albany corruption cases, he mentioned that beyond prosecution, there needed to be a cultural change in Albany. I'm wondering if there's some sort of analog here with the NCAA. Beyond this kind of shot across the road that this prosecution represents, is there anything that we can do that needs to happen at once?
As I said, we haven't been in communication with the NCAA until today. So the message of this case is that we have uncovered the conduct that we've alleged in this complaint. It is serious. They are federal crimes, and it involves a number of important programs and important coaches. And the message is, if it is pervasive, then people should be looking at it. And, I'm not going to comment much more on what the NCAA should or could do. We speak through our charges, and I think the charges speak pretty loudly.
Would you say that it's fair to say that the charges hinge on those instances? Secondarily, without you telling me what to do, was it important to you beyond the fact that because of NCAA rules and false certifications, and certainly what you just said, you kind of spoke independently of the importance of amateurs in college sports? Do you guys take a position that it's important in college sports to be amateur?
Let me take that last part first. We're a prosecutor's office. We're not taking a position on what's good for amateur sports or things of that nature. What we do take a position on is if you violate the law, we're going to investigate it and prosecute you. So the question about whether we're not here to regulate college basketball, but if we find that you're engaged in conduct where you're violating, for example, in the charges that we have brought, wire fraud statutes, the Travel Act, bribery statutes, then you will be prosecuted.
So for those who couldn't hear the question was, how did we get involved and how we start this case? And you should know that I'm not going to answer that.
I'm going to answer some of it. I think in the complaint, we do allege that a cooperating witness who I've mentioned was charged by the SEC, that he became a cooperating witness after being charged by the SEC, and then he had in the past engaged in this type of conduct and said, I'm aware of people who are willing to do this, and then he was inserted. And so that's in the public document.
Is there any evidence that players who wish to cooperate or to document anything the fire fraud? Any evidence that those players have lied or
We don't. There is no allegation in the complaints that I'm aware of the players that are described in the complaints being ripped off by these defendants, other than being told of the lies that I referenced and being told that they're being sent towards certain advisors because they thought it was in their best interest when in fact they were just getting bribes. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Did any officials at the well, there are a number of coaches who have been charged. Higher. There are no allegations of in the complaint of administrators participating in the bribery. Mm-hmm. Okay, so for the sportswear company, we haven't named the company or any particular school in our charging documents. That's what we generally do. We don't name individuals or entities that are not charged. That being said, the internet's an amazing thing. You search these folks, you know where they work. So one of the defendants who was charged is himself quite senior in the company. He's the global, I believe the title was global director of basketball or marketing, global marketing director for basketball. So that, in our view, is a pretty serious and senior position. It's clearly someone who had the authority, as alleged in the complaint, to funnel company money upwards of $100,000 and also book it in certain ways that would disguise them. But there are no other allegations in the complaint of more senior people at that company. Last question. Yeah, we issued a statement just before coming down. We're still assessing our appellate options, but we look forward to retrying Dean Skelos and Adam Skelos. The reversal, if you read the decision, makes clear that the evidence that we presented at trial was more than sufficient to prove their guilt under any standard, even under the new McDonald standard. But because McDonald came out after and the jury instruction at the time didn't obviously reflect what was later to be the language in the McDonald decision, the Second Circuit reversed it and sent it back for a retrial. As I said in the statement, we look forward to a retrial and again presenting that evidence to a jury of New Yorkers and giving the public what they deserve, we think, in that case, which, the justice that they deserve. Look, we can see from this case and all, the work that went into this, cleaning up corruption is difficult work, certainly difficult in New York State government, but we're here, and these folks standing here are here to do what we can to make sure that our government is clean and honest. We're pretty confident.
Okay, so that was the press conference from the federal authorities on the arrests, the college basketball arrests, and I'm going to talk about those in a second. Let me just do one thing real quick here. So what they echoed what we've been hearing this morning, that 10 people involved with college basketball in some sense, including 4 assistant coaches, were arrested and charged with federal crimes. And these included, so what the authorities talked about were 2 different schemes generally. One scheme was a scheme where people like managers, financial advisors, those kind of people paid coaches, assistant coaches at colleges to get their players to start utilizing the services of these financial advisors and managers and these kind of people. So these coaches, these assistant coaches would take money from like a financial advisor, an agent, or a manager, or whoever, and then they would try to get their players to sign with that agent or manager or financial advisor. So that was one of the 2 schemes. The other scheme was a scheme where a company, which we've heard is Adidas, not a company, well, a big representative of that company. This was the global sports marketing director for Adidas, and a couple of other a couple of other people who were like affiliated with Adidas. I think one of them ran like a basketball camp for Adidas or something, but it wasn't clear that they were, I don't think they were Adidas full-time employees, but they were affiliated with Adidas. Anyways, these people from Adidas had this scheme where they were offering bribes upwards of 6 figures to high school players and their families to get their players to go to colleges where those colleges are sponsored by Adidas. They wear Adidas sneakers, they have Adidas clothing. So those were the 2 schemes here that people were arrested for. One scheme, managers and agents and these kind of people paying assistant coaches at colleges to get their players to sign with those agents and managers and financial advisors. And the other scheme, representatives of Adidas, whether or not Adidas actually knew this, paying or arranging bribes for players to go to schools that were sponsored by Adidas and wore Adidas sneakers and clothing. And also, it wasn't just in that second scheme. Coaches were involved too, because I saw one in the complaint, a coach from a Kentucky school, which sources believe to be Louisville, supposedly is on a videotape giving an envelope containing $12,700 to somebody else to get eventually to give to the player or the player's family to get the player to go to the school that's sponsored by Adidas. So, a very, very important part of that press conference was when the authorities said the investigation is ongoing. It's not over yet. They said the investigation is ongoing. It was covert before. As of today, it's overt. So people know what's going on now. It's not undercover anymore, but it's still going on. And he actually said, if you participated in this activity or you know about it, give us a call. And he also said these arrests today, this investigation has been going on, I guess it's been going on since 2015. He said it involved 2 undercover agents and also somebody who was a cooperating witness. And they were, he said, hundreds of wiretaps. And I've also heard a report of a secret videotape. So, you have to wonder, will other people be charged with anything? It didn't seem to me from the tone of the press conference that they were saying more charges are forthcoming immediately, but they did say the investigation was ongoing. So this could get bigger, and who knows, do some people involved in these activities start telling on other people to reduce their own sentence? That could happen. For example, the director of global sports marketing at Adidas, if they say we're going to sentence you to X years in jail unless you talk more, to lower his sentence, if he knows other schools are involved, he might not. If he's guilty, I mean, he's still guilty, innocent to proven guilty. But if he knows other schools are involved, would he start cooperating as a witness? So, all these real big question is, will this go farther? Also, what will happen to these schools that are involved? So right now we have assistant coaches from Arizona, USC, Auburn, and Oklahoma State who've been arrested and charged with federal crimes. And we have reporting that says supposedly a Louisville assistant coach is on tape handing over a bribe. So that he hasn't been charged yet, as far as I'm aware, though. So we don't know about that. But if what will happen to these schools involved? Will they be sanctioned by the NCAA? If so, how much? How about the players? Will it come out that star players at certain universities took bribes? We didn't get names of players today at all involved. So, and what will happen to them? I don't know if it's a crime to take a bribe if you're a high school player. They didn't get charged with anything, but it does violate NCAA rules, so will they not be allowed to play in the NCAA? What will happen with Adidas? Will the NCAA say something like, hey, Adidas, you can no longer have your sneakers on college basketball players or any other NCAA sport? Don't know about that. Don't know if the NBA might have some kind of action they take against Adidas. So lots that could happen with this, and we'll be on the air, covering it if it happens, if big stuff happens. And also, if you have comments on this, write to me at Lookner, at Lookner. We'll be on the air a little while longer. But we will be I'll be updating on my Twitter if I hear big news about this throughout the day. I cover breaking news on my Twitter. So if you want to hear more, follow me on Twitter at Lookner. Also, you can Right Side Broadcasting, we do breaking news videos all the time. So if you want to know when we're coming on the air with breaking news, subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell, and that way you'll get notified. Although some people weren't today, but usually you'll get notified about when we're coming on the air with breaking news. Subscribe to us on YouTube, click on the notifications bell. Also, you can follow us on Facebook at Right Side Broadcasting, and on Twitter we're at RSB Network. Thanks so much to the moderators who've been moderating the chat today. Very much appreciated. Let me just read some comments here. Let's see if there are comments. Ricky Aiken wrote in "Wow" after about the allegation that Adidas and others offered $150,000 to a high school player to play for U Miami. Big Wig said about the U Miami, the allegation that Adidas was the Adidas rep was conspiring to offer $150,000 to a high school player to play for Miami. Big Wig says, "We back, baby." Lit Bull said, "So the basketball program in Miami is bigger than its football program?" The Reloader says, "Call your local DA as well if you have any info on NFL players, coaches, support personnel. I'm sure they would love to hear from you." Jill says, "Amen. Those kids entertain people. They should be paid for putting their health on the line." So a few people have thought that, I've heard from a few people thinking that the players should be paid. Doug says, the outrage is that someone's hard-earned skill has enabled them to be offered payment. The outrage that someone's hard-earned skill has enabled them to be offered payment to perform that skill. NCAA can go F itself. Heartland Patriot says, "How else are the Hurricanes going to field a decent team?" Mike Lewan says, "What if they're skilled but kneel during our anthem?" Ralph from Melmac says, "If only they focused on the real crime, pay for play politics. This is petty stuff in comparison." Okay, so I think right now we're going to wrap up the stream. We've been covering this all morning. I will be tweeting about it later today. If I see new news about it, I'm at Lookner on Twitter. You can follow me there. Also, thanks to those who made donations. We are viewer supported, so if you like that we were on the air covering this for several hours, and we cover a lot of news stories throughout the day. I turned it at some points, and ESPN wasn't even covering this morning when we came on the air. So if you like that we offer you an alternative to mainstream media channels, please consider donating. Even small donations really help. You can go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or you can click on the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat. And at the chat room right next to the broadcast, there's a little $ on YouTube. Also, again, subscribe to us on YouTube. Click on the notifications bell to get updates about all of our videos. Follow us on Facebook, Right Side Broadcasting. On Twitter, we're at RSB Network. And for those of you who are interested, we cover a lot of politics. We will have live coverage tonight. I think we're starting at 7:30 Eastern of the election results in the Alabama Senate election. So I will be here for that. And I'm in Alabama, so I have to actually go vote. After this broadcast, I'm going to go vote. But I will be here tonight. We're going to be covering the Alabama Senate election results, live coverage of that starting at around 7:30 Eastern on Right Side Broadcasting. Thanks to the moderators for moderating the chat. JC, I know you made a donation on the others. I saw on the other stream, so thank you for that. And let's see here. Oh, and also, President Trump is giving a press conference, which is going to start very soon. And we're going to have that on another stream on Right Side Broadcasting. So go to Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube. You can find that stream and open that up. And that's a press conference from President Trump. You can watch that. And that's going to be it for here. So for now, I am Steve Lookner with Right Side Broadcasting. Thank you for joining us today for our coverage of the college basketball corruption arrests. And again, I will be tweeting out further on this on my Twitter. And if there's big news about this or big news about anything else today, we will come on the air and covering it. So we'll have the press conference from President Trump for you on Right Side Broadcasting soon in a few minutes. Tonight, we'll have the Alabama Senate election results. And if there's other breaking news, we'll have that too. But for now, I am Steve Lookner. Thank you for watching, and have a great day, everybody.